Hi everyone, welcome back to the series of tutorials about where we talk about property management and hosting your own space, whether it's an apartment, a hotel, an apart hotel, and so on. And we've been talking a lot about how to set up your property on various booking channels. And this is something I'm kind of specialized in. But also, I thought that it can be quite beneficial, I think, for all of us to speak a little bit about the actual um, revenue management and pricing strategy behind all the hosting, because this is a primary goal why we do host our place, because we want to generate some extra income in the end of the day. And it's not only about the costs we have to consider, but it's also about proper revenue management, or in simple words, a proper pricing strategy. And I would like to just speak about some brief and really basic things today, and introduce you a little bit to this kind of really important topic. Well, revenue management originally comes from the airline industry, actually, because they were the first who recognized that the demand is not always the same, that there is factors such as seasonality, that different people have different budgets and not everyone needs like the same service. So this is where the whole story started with low budget carriers and even ultra low budget carriers, for some of you who are a little bit familiar with the airline industry. And only then it actually transferred to hospitality. And the first one who implemented this dynamic pricing approach and started to think about these revenue topics was actually Marriott Group. So this is an interesting fact for some of you who have not heard about it yet. So Marriott, they were the first ones who actually started with proper revenue management. The basic definition or the ultimate definition of revenue management is actually selling the right product at the right time to the right customer through the right channel and for the right price. Now, it sounds kind of logical and it's not really difficult probably in terms of understanding, but in terms of implementing and actually practically setting it up, it is quite quite difficult. And if we try to understand and just read and read again through the definition, we will see that there are so many areas to consider here, which are not purely about revenue and pricing, but it's also about understanding the market. It's about understanding your actual target audience, your customer group, whether you are receiving couples, families, business guests. So who are they? Who are your guests? It's about having the right channel mix. It's not only about having one channel, but about having different channels set up. And this is why I do record all those videos. And if you have watched some of them, you have probably heard that I always say there are channels which are primarily used by younger generation or by older generation, by people coming from particular country or region, and so on. Then there are price factors such as seasonality. It's not only purely about summer winter seasons, but also about holiday and off holiday season. It's about considering different events and exhibitions, other things taking place in your particular area and region. And it's of course about pricing. It's about calculating. It's about considering all the main KPIs, so key performance indicators, which you should analyze, which you should regularly review, and therefore make adjustments if necessary or if you think they are necessary. So moving on, what are these KPIs I'm talking about? I've actually splitted them up into categories. The ones you see marked are the most common and important ones which everyone analyzes, whether it's a small property manager or a real hotel. First of all, occupancy rate. Of course, we have to take a look at our occupancy, whether we have a lot of nights sold or not. Then our average daily rate, the RevPAR, the revenue per available room, or TRevPAR. TRevPAR is a total revenue per available room and is more of a higher importance for hotels, apart hotels, someone who offers extra services, typically such as breakfast, dinner, who own a bar, a restaurant, or laundry services, transfer, or any kind of transportation, and so on. And GOP par is something which is not reviewed that often, but still also an indicator you can have a look at. All of these numbers are important in order to understand how well are you performing. And I just give you one example in this, like, speaking of these factors, for example, you may have a really high occupancy rate. It can be, I don't know, 95%, which sounds really cool, yeah? But when you look at your average daily rate, you would actually see that it's pretty low probably. And you may kind of review these two things together and say, well, I would like to increase my ADR. My occupancy rate may be or may go a little bit lower from 95, let's say, to 88%, but I will generate more revenue because I adapted my ADR. And therefore, it's a plus for me, you know? And this is why it's important to have a look at all of these indicators or KPIs, just simply to not stay blind and always find potential for optimization. Now, those are really the most important KPIs, but you also have some other factors which you can look at, such as, for example, cancellation policy you have, whether you have more strict cancellation policy or more flexible one, and what is something that you prefer, you know, the lead time. So do you have more of an early bookers or do you have last minute bookers? And then min and max loss, which stays for minimum and maximum length of stay, which you can set up as well. Because it's quite common that, for example, people may book for 14 nights, maybe even for 20 nights, you know, depending on your location. And on the one hand, it's not that bad, but on the other, when you think of shorter stays, and you can actually generate more revenue by offering shorter stays and at the same time maintain this flexibility, which is significant for all the professional property managers, believe me. This flexibility is the key because there is always sometimes a change in prices, the demand increases, decreases. You may come up with new services, with new ideas. You may need property yourself. And when you are renting for 20 nights, it doesn't allow you to be flexible. But of course, it depends. Maybe if we are talking about rather a countryside area, you want people to book for 10 plus nights. I don't know. And this is where these options come for you, where you can decide whether you want people to stay longer or shorter, whether you want to be flexible about your cancellation policy or you don't want to be flexible. It also depends a little bit on the time range, because the more in advance someone books, the stricter you can set up your cancellation policy, and the closer it is to the potential booking date, the more flexible you can get. Because when we are talking about a further future, let's say 3 to 6 months in advance, you can always be a little bit stricter with prices, with policies and stuff like this. And if you do not get the amount of bookings you wish to have, then you can always adapt and be more flexible. This is how I personally manage it. But of course, it's up to you. You have, as I already mentioned a couple of times here, you have a lot of different options and you can play with these factors the way you want it to have. Now, when thinking of setting up a price, it's of course a little bit complicated. So you always have to take into account all the data, meaning analyze your customer behavior, market, demand. Demand is probably the most important thing to look at. But of course, your cost, average prices within the area where you allocated, and so on. Now, you may have this knowledge yourself through reading books, watching tutorials, your own experience from the past, or if you are on the market quite a long time already, you kind of have this gut feeling, or you can hire a professional revenue manager. Of course, it only pays off if you are managing a large amount of properties and you really see the need to hire someone or to seek advice from an expert who can maybe help you out with some important aspects. In the end of the day, of course, it does pay off to invest in this topic because it's pretty complicated and a lot of options are not really seen or taken advantage of by so many property managers. So revenue management is a big hole in terms of knowledge and understanding how the thing works. And then something that a lot of people do nowadays is implementing a software or a so-called revenue management system, which is, of course, beneficial because it saves you a lot of time in terms of data analytics. And it does it quite fast and in an efficient way. And what comes out in the end are those adjusted price proposals. So you don't have to calculate it yourself. And what is also quite a good thing, especially if you're managing a lot of properties, this whole price update, which is first sent from RMS to your channel manager and from channel managers to all the channels you have integrated, Airbnb, VRBO, Expedia, and so on. And it all happens automatically. So you do not have to adjust it manually yourself and invest a huge amount of time in it. But what you never have to forget is that such a software tool will never replace a proper revenue management. It does not equal revenue management and pricing strategy. It only, as it's stated here, it only makes possible proposals which you can accept, but you do not have to accept. And why it is important to understand, because there are a lot of different providers there, such as PriceLabs, Wheelhouse, Beyond. Those are more for apartments. And FLYR, for example, is also a very good one, is more for part hotels and classic hotels. They do analyze these data, yes, but they do not consider all the factors, of course. And there are factors such as design, such as location. I mean, location probably, yes, but design, really specific features, I don't know, view from the window, and so on, which are not considered by those software tools and which you yourself have to consider. So this is where the difference is. And we can talk a lot about those differences and why it is important to still review what you're being proposed to. But in terms of managing, in terms of putting in all the data, in terms of analyzing, well, definitely a software tool does pay off to have in your daily operational routine. Now, in terms of selecting this software tool, in case you decide to pick one, criteria can be different, and of course, it's an individual choice in the end of the day. But key factors to look at is first of all whether this particular software can be integrated with your channel manager or your PMS, which you are currently using. Then I always have a look at the update speed, because if they only update prices once in a day, it's just way too slow. It's not really good. Then it's always good to have a 24/7 support in case you are having kind of a technical issue or problem, and not just someone who works from 9 to 5. Clearly, also quite a good thing to have are learning materials. So the more tutorials, videos, webinars this particular software provider has, the better for you, because of course, if you want to gain some knowledge in this area, which would be really beneficial for you in any case. Having these learning materials is and knowing how to work with this particular software is essential. And the more of it do they offer, the more they care about your knowledge and the quality of what product they are selling in the end of the day, the more it actually shows their commitment to what they do, and their goal, or the goal of this software company to actually be number one. So it's also quite important. Then, of course, the cost of this software, the price you have to pay in order to use the software. And for some people, location can be important, especially if you are willing to talk in your native language. Not everyone has support in different languages. Most of them only do like English, maybe Spanish version. I personally know a couple of people who want to have German speaking support. So this is also a factor to look for, where they are located. And of course, some things such as economic, political situation, I mean, can also have an impact. But, I just mentioned it also as something you may look for. Now, I picked up 3 software tools here. You can have a look at yourself later on. PriceLabs and Wheelhouse are both rather for apartments, and FLYR is rather for hostels, hotels, and so on. So I also differentiate it a little bit. It's not my personal recommendation, or software tools I find are kind of really special or so. It's not advertising or something, but this is just tools I personally find good, yes. And for apartments, I would probably even go with PriceLabs. Also, it's not because I am promoting their products or so. As already mentioned, you can have a look at it yourself, but what they do have, and what I really think is cool, is that they have, if you click on resources, you will see that they are offering a lot of different tutorials, videos, webinars on a regular base. As you can see here, education, free tools, and you can read a blog, you can have a training, you can register for a webinar, and everything is free of charge. So you do not even have to be their client in order to get access to all of this knowledge. And for example, if you are interested to get some more insights about the KPIs, the different options, the things with min loss, max loss, and everything we've talked about here today, then probably visit their YouTube channel. And believe me, you will find a lot of interesting insights for yourself without even being their client. So I do, how do I say it? I think it's really cool that they do offer that. And for me, it's a huge plus for me personally. But as I already mentioned, it's up to you how you want to go with that. So I hope this video kind of helped you to understand a little bit more the topic of pricing, revenue. There's definitely a lot more to talk about, and basically a whole course can be created about the property management alone. So definitely this video is only a brief introduction to things you can think of, and just in which area you can improve your knowledge as a host. I wish you all a good day, and thank you for watching this video.